The United States is suspending a tariff hike on $250 billion in Chinese imports that was set to take effect on Tuesday as the world's two biggest economies reached a ceasefire in their 15-month trade war.
The superpowers are leaving the thornier issues, including US allegations that China forces foreign countries to hand over trade secrets in return for access to the Chinese market, until later negotiations. Well, North America correspondent James Glenday joins us now from Washington. What's actually included in this agreement, James?
That's a really good question, Fawzia, because there's nothing written down. Unless it's written down with Donald Trump, and indeed, as we've seen with China in these negotiations, we shouldn't count any chickens before they've hatched. However, both sides say that this Phase 1 agreement of some sort of deal to end the tit-for-tat tariff trade war, which has been menacing the global economy now for more than 12 months, includes agricultural products, including a promise for China to buy up to $50 billion worth of US dollars worth of American products. It apparently includes some guidelines on currency manipulation and the way that China sets its currency against the US dollar, and it also includes some provisions on intellectual property, including apparently some developments on forced technology transfer. But as you mentioned in that introduction, some aspects of forced technology transfer, according to Donald Trump, have been kicked down the road to Phase 2 of negotiations. Now, the president says that he doesn't expect too many troubles with getting this agreement written down over the next few weeks, and he says that it is an important step forward. Here's some of what he had to say about how this deal is going to be negotiated.
Phase 2 will start negotiations almost immediately after we've concluded Phase 1 and papered it. And I think Phase 1 should happen pretty quickly. So you have intellectual property. We have an agreement on intellectual property. Financial services, the banks and all of the financial services companies will be very, very happy with what we've been able to get.
And there we have Mr. Trump there saying Phase 2 will happen after Phase 1. But does he still think that all of this could fall over?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, because literally just after he finished saying, oh, this is how we're doing it, we're doing Phase 1 first, and we could do Phase 2, he said he was asked whether he thought it would fall over, and he said, oh, well, we can't rule that out. He said, but he was pretty confident. And both sides indeed did seem a lot more warm and in agreement than they have during previous negotiations that we've seen in Washington. There was some speculation this morning that things could be headed towards a bit more of a breakthrough, but really the devil's going to be in the detail. We'll have to wait and see what is written down and whether or not they can actually, both leaders, both President Xi and President Trump, will actually sign that agreement in Chile at the APEC summit in November. I think the other thing that is really significant about this is Phase 2 and, of course, tariffs as well. As you mentioned, the planned increase for tariffs next week has now been suspended, but a planned increase in tariffs just before Christmas is still on the cards, and the US side says those tariffs will remain on the cards until they see some more progress and actually step it through. But that in this agreement being done. And I think what will be really interesting to see is how many issues are resolved before next year, and when, of course, Donald Trump will be heading into what's shaping up to be a closely contested election campaign. And there is a little bit of domestic politics involved in all this as well, because farmers, particularly in key swing states in the American Midwest, have been saying for many months now that they are really feeling the impact of this tariff trade war. And Mr. Trump is hoping that this Phase 1 agreement does give them some relief.
All right, James Glenday there reporting for us in Washington.